Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to the Deep Roots Movement. In this episode of our Adam in the Garden Path series, we're going to discuss the forbidden fruit. What was it? What is it? Over many centuries, millennia even, there have been many discussions about what the forbidden fruit was that took our ancestors out of a garden state and into a world where sin and disharmony, hard work, pain, suffering, and sorrow were part of our daily lives as we make our way back to the garden from the garden. So let's think about some different ways that the broader prophetic tradition has discussed this forbidden fruit. Now, if you've grown up in the West, you're probably familiar with the apple. And we see this symbol all around us, like Apple products with the bite taken out of it, suggesting that technology is related to the forbidden fruit, the knowledge of good and evil. And there could be something to this. Also, the apple clearly relates to different episodes within the Greek mythologies. As far as I'm aware, oftentimes within Jewish symbology, you will see images of the pomegranate. The pomegranate, if you open it up, it's got many seeds within there, and it's bittersweet. It's very good for the blood, for the blood circulation, for the health of the blood. It even looks a bit like blood cells, red blood cells, when you open it up, and perhaps you could say abstractly like chambers of the heart. In some Islamic accounts, I've read that it was discussed as being a banana. And the banana is interesting. We've got to think about all the different symbols and their contexts. The banana obviously could be related to sex and sexuality. I believe I've read that the fig was also considered as one potential candidate for the forbidden fruit. And when you look at a fig, it resembles, a man's sexual organs. It opens up and it contains the seeds within it. Now, obviously, we've got a pattern here where, to some extent, we're seeing the potential for sexual imagery. And within many of the Christian traditions, they have the conceptualization of the original sin, which basically was related to the fall of humanity into a state of sin, which lasts until Jesus Christ dies on the cross and as a blood sacrifice, and then that blood covers individuals who accept Jesus into their heart, or covers all of humanity, saving all of humanity through this sacrificial offering. So they see, so some Christians see the original sin related to sex and sexuality. And so they knew that they were naked. They didn't know this before. Then they had intimacy. They knew one another in a sexually intimate manner, and somehow this was related to the fall. And this was taken up by many of the Christian priests and the monks, and is still strong in some of the monasticism. So sex and sexuality, this is an interesting one and related to sin and the fall. From my perspective, within the Islamic tradition, we have a conceptualization not of original sin, which potentially leads to what I see as a very unhealthy worldview of viewing humans as innately flawed, evil, off path. And it's an interesting thing to think of. If we imagine Allah to be our Father, and our Father cannot look at us because we are sinful beings, then he can only see his Son and his Son's blood covering us, which is very, very pagan. It's super mystery school. And blood sacrifices are always very, very pagan and highly problematic when it comes to the actual factual prophetic path and the path of enlightenment. And it's interesting because God the Father cannot see you as his child without seeing his Son's blood cover you. So And even in that event, he can never see you for who you are, which is really, really sad. And also that worldview seems highly problematic potentially, in that, of looking at humans as innately evil and flawed, because it seems to potentially actually excuse devilry. Oh, I'm just going to my true nature. I'm just living according to my actual nature. And people might actually, even after they go post-Christian and leave Christianity because they see flaws within its theology, then they may actually still have an underlying worldview of humanity as evil and flawed. Like, so for instance, if you look at global warming and climate change, where everyone gets blamed. The individual in society gets blamed for all the problems in society, instead of looking at the plastic factories and the people who run them. Instead of looking at the weapons industry and the people who run them and create the wars in order to utilize those weapons, and those who finance them, and all of the interwoven, tentacles of the brotherhood systems. Instead of them being focused on, then there's, we get blamed as individuals. Why? Because we're innately flawed, we're innately evil. There's so many potential issues with this worldview. So many systems around the world have said that our true nature is one of purity and has the potential for the greatest good and the greatest evil. That's my view. And that we then have free will and we have choice to take a path of purification. And as when we go out of harmony with nature, which is internal, body and mind, and between us within relationships, then we need to make efforts to correct this through repenting, or turning away from that which is unhealthy and sinful and idolatrous, turning our back on that which is unhealthy, and choosing what is better. And we go through a purification process, a tazkiyah process, to purify every aspect of our lives in a holistic manner, in a very systematic manner, in order to reharmonize and then to heal or be made whole. Because we go from a fallen, broken state to an upright, rectified state, to one of righteousness, where we are, as the right hand, merciful, compassionate, forgiving. We are fair, we are just, we are honest, we are truth seekers and truth speakers. And our mercy always overcomes our wrath. So now we've briefly looked at these various conceptualizations of sex, of the fig, of the date, of the apple, the pomegranate. We've also got the wheat plant, which also suggests moving from a gathering lifestyle or a hunting-gathering lifestyle into an agricultural lifestyle, and one of civilization, which is related to the word city, and society, which has many problems and pulls us out of harmony with nature. And if we conceptualize of sin as disharmony, internal and is disharmony in an external and interior, self and other manner, and disharmony with our inner and outer natures, then city life certainly is not a natural way of life where we flow. I mean, we can flow in harmony within a cityscape and within a city environment. However, there are many inputs that make it very challenging energetically to be in a truly harmonious, healthy, whole state. So now this leads us to a final conceptualization, which I will discuss in the next episode related to the forbidden fruit. So in the next one, we will discuss one that's very interesting, inshallah. Until then, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.